From 1985 to 1990, 227 captivated audiences with its remarkable cast and unforgettable moments. However, behind the laughter and drama, many of its talented actors have tragically passed away. In this video, we remember these beloved stars, honoring their incredible careers and the impact they've had on the world of television. Join us as we reflect on their lives, the roles that made them famous, and the heartbreaking losses that left fans in mourning. Watch until the end, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to keep their memories alive. Helen Martin played Pearl Shea on 227 in 1985, beginning her role at the age of 76, and left an unforgettable mark on television. Pearl was the nosy yet lovable neighbor, always meddling in the lives of others with a comedic flair that brought joy to the show. Despite her character's humorous nature, Martin's personal life was filled with tragedy. She had faced numerous struggles, including difficult relationships and the challenges of raising a family during tough times. Helen's own experience with loss was deeply personal. She never fully recovered from the heartbreak of losing loved ones, and despite her career, she remained haunted by feelings of loneliness. After years of dealing with family issues and personal battles, Helen's later years were marred by poor health, and she passed away at the age of 90 on March 25, 2000, from a heart attack, marking the end of a life filled with both joy and sorrow. Paul Winfield joined 227 in 1988 at the age of 49, playing the charming and suave Julian C. Barlow. Julian, with his elegance and sophisticated demeanor, contrasted sharply with the troubles in Winfield's personal life. Though a beloved figure on screen, his real-life story was filled with emotional turmoil. Paul had been in a long-term relationship with his partner, but tragically, this relationship ended after years of unspoken grief and unfulfilled promises. The love he had craved for much of his life was never fully realized, and he spent his days quietly grieving the loss of his personal happiness. As he struggled with his emotional battles, he faced the constant pressure of an industry that offered little in terms of stability or security. His career, though marked by significant achievements, also saw its fair share of disappointments, and Paul struggled with feelings of isolation. Paul passed away on March 7, 2004, at the age of 64, from a heart attack. Elena Reed Hall's portrayal of Rose Lee Holloway on 227 began in 1985 when she was 39, and the character was one that exuded kindness and wisdom. Rose was the perfect friend, generous, comforting, and always ready to offer support. However, Elena's own life was far from the serenity of Rose's. Though married twice, Elena's personal life was riddled with heartbreak and tragedy. She had 2 children, but her relationships were complicated, and her marriages ultimately ended in divorce. Throughout her life, Elena was no stranger to hardship, struggling with issues that were far beyond what her character on screen could reflect. She found herself constantly battling not only personal demons but the emotional toll of a career in a highly demanding industry. In 2009, Elena was diagnosed with breast cancer, which led to her passing on December 17, 2009, at the age of 63, a victim of the cruel disease that took away her vitality and left her family mourning. Rinonaldo Ray, who played the mailman on 227 starting in 1986 at the age of 46, was known for his humor and wit, bringing light to the show's ensemble with his friendly, joking demeanor. Yet behind his comedic facade, Ray experienced great personal hardships. His family life, too, was fraught with struggles. Despite his outward joviality, Ray's marriage ended in divorce after years of emotional strain. His relationship with his children was difficult, and the weight of these familial tensions often wore him down. Furthermore, his career, while notable, was marked by long stretches of financial instability and professional uncertainty. Ray's struggles with his health were exacerbated by the emotional burdens he carried. He died on May 28, 2015, at the age of 75, after complications from a stroke. His passing was a sad and tragic end to a life that, despite its humor and warmth on screen, was marred by personal suffering and loss. George Kirby, who portrayed Milton Jenkins on 227 in 1987 at the age of 64, brought a unique brand of humor and charm to the series. Milton's comedic timing and lively personality made him a fan favorite, but Kirby's life off-screen was marked by tragic circumstances. Though he found success in his career, Kirby's personal life was filled with profound struggles, including the loss of close friends and family members. He had multiple failed marriages, and his relationship with his children was strained due to his inability to maintain stable family connections. His later years were particularly painful, as he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a condition that slowly took away his ability to move and perform. The man who had once captivated audiences with his vivacious spirit now found himself trapped in a body that betrayed him. Kirby died on September 30, 1995, at the age of 72, leaving behind a legacy of comedy but a life filled with profound personal loss and illness. Kevin Peter Hall, known for his role as Warren Merriweather on 227 starting in 1989 at the age of 34, embodied the gentle giant, a man of kindness and protection. But Kevin's life was fraught with unspoken challenges, not unlike the quiet struggles of his on-screen character. Behind his towering figure and friendly demeanor, Kevin fought against the ravages of AIDS, a disease that took its toll on both his body and spirit. His personal life was marked by brief but intense relationships, yet he remained largely solitary, burdened by the secrets and sorrows that haunted him. His health continued to deteriorate, and his battles with the disease overshadowed his promising career. Kevin's premature death at the age of 35 on April 10, 1991, due to AIDS-related pneumonia was a cruel blow, robbing the world of a talented actor and a kind soul far too soon, highlighting the devastating reality of a disease that left a gaping hole in the hearts of those who knew and loved him. Beia Richards, who portrayed the strong and nurturing Carolyn Hurley on 227 starting in 1986 at the age of 66, brought depth and wisdom to the show. Carolyn was a character who, despite facing her own personal challenges, stood tall and supported those around her. Richards, however, lived a much more tumultuous life off-screen. Her relationships were fraught with pain, and she had a tumultuous marriage that ultimately ended in divorce. Richards was never able to fully recover from the emotional scars left by this failed marriage, and her private life was often marked by deep sadness and regret. She had children but struggled to find stability in her family life, with frequent conflicts that left her searching for peace. Richards was diagnosed with emphysema, a disease that slowly took its toll on her health. She died on September 14, 2000, at the age of 80. Her passing, though not unexpected, was a heartbreaking end to a life filled with emotional hardship. Whitman Mayo played the role of Henry Hurley in 227, starting in 1986 at the age of 56. Henry was a wise and compassionate figure in the show, always offering insightful advice and a sense of calm in the face of chaos. In many ways, he was the heart of the Hurley family, the guiding voice in difficult situations. Despite his warmth on screen, Mayo's life was far from serene. In his personal life, he faced many hardships, including financial struggles and a challenging relationship with his health. His love life was marked by several turbulent relationships, never truly finding peace in marriage. He did marry, but his relationships were fraught with difficulties, and he was often faced with the harsh reality of loneliness. Tragically, Mayo's health deteriorated, leading to his heart attack on May 22, 2001, at the age of 70. His death left many stunned, as his life had been a testament to resilience despite the personal turmoil he endured. Julius Kerry, who joined 227 as Dale Evans in 1986 at the age of 34, was an actor known for his charisma and adventurous spirit. Dale Evans brought excitement to the series, often portraying a character who was full of life and ready for anything. However, Kerry's real-life story was one filled with tragic circumstances. Despite his successful career in television, Kerry's personal life was marked by heartbreak. His marriages were short-lived, and he struggled with deep personal issues that left him questioning his own happiness. Kerry faced health struggles that he kept private, but they eventually caught up with him. In the final years of his life, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, a disease that would slowly take its toll. He passed away on August 19, 2008, at the age of 56, leaving behind a legacy of a career cut short by a disease that took him far too soon. His death left many grieving the loss of a talented actor who had so much more to offer. Flip Wilson, who took on the role of Ed Fulton in 227 in 1988, at 55 years old, brought his characteristic wit and charm to the show. Ed, always ready with a clever quip, was a reflection of Wilson's larger-than-life comedic persona. Wilson had once been a comedic legend, known for his groundbreaking work on The Flip Wilson Show, which made him the first African-American to host a successful TV variety show. But as the years wore on, his career slowed down, and Wilson faced the cruel reality of being overshadowed by the changing landscape of television. His personal life mirrored his professional struggles. Wilson had been married twice, but both relationships ended in divorce, leaving him with feelings of abandonment and regret. In the final years of his life, Flip Wilson's health began to deteriorate, and he was diagnosed with liver cancer, a disease that slowly consumed him. Flip Wilson died on November 25, 1998, at the age of 64. Ron Glass played Robert Stone in 227 starting in 1987 when he was 42 years old. Robert was the epitome of charm and intelligence, often getting entangled in complex and morally ambiguous situations. Glass's portrayal of a suave, thoughtful man in a series of intricate social dynamics gave the character a distinct air of sophistication. However, Glass's career, despite its moments of brilliance, was marked by unexpected challenges. After 227, his acting trajectory didn't reach the same heights, and he struggled with a lack of significant roles, which led to a sense of professional stagnation. Glass, whose personal life was relatively private, had to navigate his own battles with loneliness and isolation. He never married, leading to a life of solitude despite his charismatic public persona. Ron Glass was ultimately found to have passed away on November 25, 2016, at the age of 71 due to respiratory failure. Ivonne Wilder, who joined 227 in 1988 at the age of 51, portrayed Ana Gonzalez, a warm and nurturing woman whose kindness made her a beloved character on the show. Yet, her real-life journey was a tragic contrast to the gentle nature of her role. Wilder had initially enjoyed a promising career in theater and film, but much of her work had been undervalued, leaving her with a sense of professional underachievement. Wilder had been married, but her relationship was fraught with issues that led to a painful separation. She never remarried, and her life became increasingly isolated as her career continued to fade. As she grew older, Wilder faced significant health challenges, including complications related to diabetes. These struggles, paired with the lingering sense of unrealized potential, cast a long shadow over her final years. Ivonne Wilder passed away on November 24, 2021, at the age of 84, succumbing to the effects of her long battle with diabetes. Luther Vandross, who joined 227 in 1990 at 39 years old, portrayed himself on the show. Vandross was known for his sultry voice and magnetic presence, bringing to life musical performances that captivated audiences. Yet, his career was tainted with personal tragedies that were far from the glamorous image he projected. Vandross, despite his massive success as a singer, faced immense emotional battles, particularly with his weight and health. His personal life remained largely private, but he had relationships that were deeply affected by his struggles with self-worth and loneliness. His life was a tale of professional triumph marred by the constant fight to maintain his health and image. Despite his achievements, Vandros never seemed to find peace, and his battles with his body and his mind left him feeling increasingly isolated. On July 1, 2005, Luther Vandros passed away at the age of 54 from a heart attack, his health deteriorated by years of weight issues and stress. Dela Reese's role as Grace in 227 began in 1987 when she was 56 years old. Grace was a strong and independent woman, guiding those around her with wisdom and compassion. But Reese's real-life journey was far from the calm and collected nature of Grace. Her early years were marked by hardship, including a difficult marriage that left her emotionally scarred. Reese, who had one child from her marriage, faced the devastating reality of a divorce that left her with feelings of abandonment. She then spent years struggling to find stability in her personal life. In her later years, Reese battled health complications, including diabetes, which plagued her both physically and mentally. Despite her immense talent, she couldn't escape the long shadows of health and personal struggles. Dela Reese passed away on November 19, 2017, at the age of 86, from complications related to diabetes. Carmen Philippi began his role as the Old Geezer in 1989 on 227 at the age of 66. The Old Geezer was a quirky and eccentric character who provided comedic relief with his unpredictable antics. Despite his portrayal as a light-hearted figure, Carmen's personal life reflected a much darker reality. He faced a string of failed relationships, and after a bitter divorce, his life took a tragic turn. Carmen's relationships were often marred by emotional turmoil, and his attempts at stability within his family seemed to fail. Although he had children, his personal connections were fraught with difficulty. By the time he was in his later years, Carmen struggled with feelings of loneliness and a sense of defeat. While he was known for his comedic roles, the sadness in his personal life overshadowed his public persona. On May 9, 2003, Carmen Philippi passed away at the age of 80, with his death attributed to health complications that had plagued him for years. Dennis Fimple, who played Slim on 227, joined the series in 1989 when he was 49. Slim was an exuberant and high-energy character, always full of life and spirit. However, he had struggled with alcoholism for much of his adult life, a battle that overshadowed much of his career. His relationships, often strained by his addiction, resulted in multiple failed marriages. Dennis was a father, but his personal struggles led to a fragmented family life, leaving him estranged from his children during his later years. His career, while filled with promising moments, never truly took off in the way it seemed destined to. Despite his early enthusiasm for acting, Dennis faced constant setbacks, including health problems that were exacerbated by his drinking. His struggles with substance abuse became widely known, and his health began to deteriorate rapidly in his later years. On August 23, 2002, Dennis tragically passed away at the age of 61 due to a car accident. Earl Bowen, who portrayed the quirky and lovable Conrad on 227, was introduced to the series in 1990 at the age of 49. Conrad was a character who, despite his eccentricities, managed to bring a sense of charm and warmth to the show. Yet, Earl, like many actors of his generation, faced a series of difficult relationships, each marked by emotional complexity. His marriages were brief and tumultuous, with one resulting in a highly publicized divorce that left him struggling both financially and emotionally. Despite his success on television, Earl's personal life was marked by constant turmoil as he struggled to maintain any form of lasting connection. His career waned, and he found himself grappling with bouts of depression and loneliness. Sadly, he also dealt with health problems that further isolated him from those who cared for him. On January 5, 2023, Earl passed away at the age of 81, succumbing to complications from a long battle with illness. Teddy Wilson portrayed Cousin Ray in the 1986 sitcom 227 at the age of 43, bringing life and humor to a character whose presence was always felt through laughter. As Cousin Ray, he was the fun, light-hearted figure, often the catalyst for joy and comic relief. However, behind the scenes, Teddy's life was fraught with personal turmoil. He had been married but struggled with a troubled relationship that led to a painful divorce. The failed marriage left him emotionally devastated, struggling with the loss of connection and love. Later in life, he tried to rebuild his sense of stability, but addiction became a significant challenge. Despite his natural charisma, Teddy found himself battling a debilitating dependence, which clouded his once promising career. His death at 47 from a stroke on July 21, 1991. He left behind no immediate family, with his passing a somber reminder of how much darker things had become for him. John Carlin, who portrayed Nathan Pollock on 227, began his role in 1989 at the age of 56. Nathan was a caring and understanding character, often offering support to those around him. However, his relationship with his family was often strained, and his love life was marked by significant heartbreak. Although John married, his marriage was troubled, with both partners struggling to meet each other's needs. The stress from this marriage took a toll on John's mental health, and he often found himself battling feelings of inadequacy. His career was filled with fleeting moments of success, but after 227, John struggled to find roles that matched his earlier acclaim. In his personal life, John experienced bouts of depression, often retreating from public view. Health problems in his later years further added to his misery. John passed away on January 22, 2020, at the age of 86 due to congestive heart failure. James Karen, known for his role as the lawyer on 227, began his tenure on the show in 1985 at the age of 62. His portrayal of the sharp-witted lawyer was a standout, but James's life outside of acting was less than stellar. His marriages were marred by infidelity and emotional distance, leaving him with a fractured family. He had children, but the strain of his personal issues caused a breakdown in his relationships with them. James's career, though filled with notable roles, was punctuated by long periods of professional stagnation. As the years wore on, his health began to decline, and the financial struggles he faced after a series of poor investments added to his sense of despair. James often spoke of feeling overshadowed by the success of his peers, and he found himself isolated and forgotten by many in the entertainment industry in his later years. On October 23, 2018, James Karen passed away at the age of 94 from respiratory failure. Paul Reubens began portraying the iconic Pee Wee Herman in 227 in 1987, when he was 35, embodying the character's eccentric, quirky, and innocent charm. Pee Wee Herman became an unforgettable figure of entertainment, with his unpredictable nature creating both laughter and discomfort. However, Paul's own personal life was far less whimsical. In his early career, he was known to have endured immense pressure and struggled with the expectations of fame. Despite his comedic success, Paul's personal life was deeply affected by his own struggles with loneliness and isolation. He had several long-term relationships, but none of them led to marriage, and he never had children. Paul faced public backlash in the early 1990s when he was arrested for indecent exposure, a scandal that marred his career and personal reputation. His later years were marked by ongoing health issues, including a battle with cancer that ultimately took his life on July 30, 2023, at the age of 70. Rosco Lee Brown took on the role of Albert Henry in 227 in 1987 when he was 65. Albert Henry was a dignified, wise, and somewhat reserved figure, bringing a sense of sophistication to the community. Rosco Lee Brown's career was one filled with critical acclaim, but his personal life was fraught with hardship. He was married twice, but both unions ended in bitter divorces. His second wife, who had been a source of great personal pain for him, left him emotionally scarred. Brown struggled with finding lasting happiness, often retreating into his work to avoid confronting his personal turmoil. The toll of the years, combined with a relentless battle with stomach cancer, led to his death on April 11, 2007, at the age of 84. His death was a tragic reminder of the toll that personal battles can have on a man, no matter how accomplished he may be in his professional life. John Houseman, who appeared as himself in 227 in 1987 at the age of 85, was a towering figure of elegance and gravitas. His portrayal brought a sense of sophistication and experience to the show, acting as a mentor to others. However, although being a man of wealth and success, John had experienced multiple failed marriages, each one steeped in drama and heartache. His first wife left him for another man, a betrayal that devastated him. His second marriage, though longer, was marked by bitterness and isolation, and by the time of his third marriage, John had become a shell of the man he once was. His relationships with his children were strained, further contributing to his isolation. Professionally, he experienced periods of unemployment, and the spotlight that once followed him seemed to flicker out in his later years. John's final years were marred by a difficult battle with spinal cancer, which led to his death on October 31, 1988, at the age of 86, succumbing to the illness that had overtaken him. Red Buttons played Toots in 227 in 1987, at the age of 68, bringing warmth and comedy to the series as an older, fun-loving neighbor. Toots was the kind of character that could lighten any room with his quirkiness and humor, always ready with a joke or a witty remark. While his on-screen presence radiated joy, his personal life was a stark contrast. Married twice, Red Button's first marriage ended in divorce, and his second marriage, to actress Alicia Harriet, seemed promising but was tainted by difficulties. Despite his professional success, his private life was marked by deep loneliness and personal struggles. In the years leading up to his death, he faced an overwhelming series of health battles and personal losses, including the passing of close friends. His later years were plagued by a crippling vascular disease, and Red Buttons passed away on July 13, 2006, at the age of 87, which was a loss to the entertainment world. Richard Venture, who portrayed Drew Mortimer in 227, started his role at the age of 64 in 1987. Drew Mortimer was a shrewd and often manipulative character, involved in various complex situations. While Richard Venture's career spanned several decades, he faced the kind of personal struggles that so often go unseen. His marriage was fraught with difficulties, and despite having a family, his relationships were frequently overshadowed by professional stress and unresolved issues at home. As he aged, the weight of these challenges took its toll, and in his later years, he struggled with profound loneliness. His death on December 19, 2017, at the age of 94, marked the end of a career that spanned decades. However, it was not just the death of an actor but the end of a man whose life had been filled with both triumphs and private agonies. His death was attributed to natural causes, but for those who knew him, it was a sad conclusion to a life marked by personal strife and sorrow. Who is your favorite character in 227? How do you feel knowing that the actors have passed away? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss future videos. Thank you so much.